All right, let's talk about music. But I want you to forget everything you think you know about classical music. Because today, we're diving into the story of a composer who was, basically, the original remix artist, a musical hacker who totally changed the game more than 100 years ago. You know that feeling, right? When you hear a beat you totally recognize, but a DJ has flipped it and twisted it into something brand new and just awesome? That's the magic of a good remix, and it's something producers and artists do every single day. But what if I told you that one of the greatest remix artists ever wasn't in some high-tech studio? What if he was a classical composer from way back on a serious mission? Well, get ready to meet Béla Bartók. He's the guy we're going to get to know today. So our story kicks off with Bartók facing a pretty big problem. He felt like the music of his day was just stuck on repeat. He needed to find some new sounds, some new samples to work with. He had to go hunting. See, back in the early 1900s, Bartók looked at the classical music world and thought, man, this is getting kind of stale. It's like if every song you heard followed the exact same formula. It was all super polished and predictable. And he was bored. He was craving something real, something raw and authentic. So what's the guy to do? He went on an epic quest. He got his hands on the coolest new tech available, a phonograph, which was basically the great-great-grandfather of your phone's voice memo app, and he hit the road. He traveled to these tiny, out-of-the-way villages and recorded everyday people singing these incredible, ancient folk songs. He didn't just listen, he documented everything. And this, right here, this was his big idea. He believed these old songs weren't just history. No way. For him, they were the key to the future. This was the raw material, the secret ingredient he could use to create a sound that was completely new. And I'm not kidding when I say he was dedicated. He didn't just collect a few dozen songs. We're talking about thousands, literally thousands of melodies. Think about it. He was building this massive personal library of sound, saving all these tunes from being forgotten forever. Okay, so Bartók's got his huge collection of samples. He's done the research. Now comes the really fun part, the remix. This is where he starts cooking up his new style. So on one side, you had your traditional classical music. You know, very smooth, very polite, always playing by the rules. And then you have Bartók. He took those wild, raw rhythms he'd collected and just smashed them into classical music structures. The result was something totally edgy, unpredictable, and yeah, it broke all the rules. Now, one of his favorite musical spices was something called dissonance. It might sound like a complicated word, but I promise you know exactly what it is. It's that tense, clashing, on-the-edge-of-your-seat sound you hear in a movie score right before the big jump scare, or in a video game just before the final boss battle. It's all about creating tension and excitement, and Bartók absolutely loved it. So if you think about it like a recipe, Bartók's was totally one of a kind. He took a base of classical structure, poured in the heart and soul of those old folk songs, and then sprinkled in a whole lot of that spicy modern dissonance. He cooked up a sound that nobody, and I mean nobody, had ever heard before. All right, so all this talk about a new sound is great, but what did it actually sound like? Let's check out a quick playlist of some of his most important and famous pieces.
First up, there's Mikrokosmos. You can honestly think of it like a video game skill tree for the piano, with 153 pieces that literally level you up from a total beginner to an absolute pro. Then you've got his Concerto for Orchestra, where he makes every single instrument a soloist, like they're all rock stars in a massive supergroup. His piece Allegro Barbaro is just pure, raw energy. He basically turns the piano into a drum. And his 6-string quartets, well, they're considered masterpieces that completely change the game for small musical groups.
So, to put it all in perspective, here's a quick flyby of his journey. He's born a musical talent. In 1905, he kicks off that massive quest to collect folk music. By 1911, he's unleashing his new, aggressive style on the world. As war spread across Europe, he had to flee, moving to the USA in 1940. And sadly, he passed away just 5 years later, but not before leaving behind an incredible, game-changing legacy. Okay, so, cool story about a composer from 100 years ago. But why are we talking about him now? Why should you care? Why does Béla Bartók still matter today?
Well, the answer is pretty simple. Because his core idea, taking old traditions and remixing them into something new, is everywhere. Seriously, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's in the hip-hop producer who samples a 70s soul record. It's in the movie composer who blends a huge orchestra with electronic beats. That entire mindset, that's the spirit of Bartók, alive and well.
So let's sum it up.
What was his final impact? For one, he built a bridge connecting the past of music to its future. He showed everyone that folk music wasn't simple. It was powerful, complex, and really cool. He pretty much helped create the entire scientific field of studying music from around the world. But maybe most importantly, he inspired generations of artists to be brave, break the rules, and experiment to find their own unique voice.
And that kind of leads me to my last question for you. Bartók found his inspiration in the sounds and traditions that other people were ignoring. So what about you? What traditions, stories, or sounds from your own world, your family, your culture, your neighborhood, could you sample and remix into something totally new? You never know. The next great idea might just be hiding where no one else is thinking to look.